This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. Good morning, I'm John Trout. It's Tuesday, June 24th, 2025. Here's what's coming up on America in the Morning.
Uncertainty over a declaration by President Trump of a ceasefire between Iran and Israel. I'm John Stolnis in Washington.
A summer heat wave takes hold of parts of the U.S.
commonly known as a heat dome.
I'm Clayton Neville.
The Supreme Court is allowing the Trump administration to restart the deportation of migrants away from their home countries. Haya Panjwani, Washington.
Governor Kathy Hochul says nuclear power is the future.
And this is not your grandparents' nuclear reactor.
Julie Walker, New York.
Stocks are coming off a relief rally yesterday after Iran's retaliation was restrained, and President Trump now is touting a ceasefire. I'm Jessica Ettinger.
Florida condominium residents grappling with the steep cost of building improvements will get some financial relief. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
All ahead on America in the Morning. President Trump announces a ceasefire in what's being called the 12-day war between Iran and Israel. This after a missile attack on the U.S. base in Qatar. Covering the story from Washington, here's our John Stolnis.
In a post on Truth Social yesterday, the president said there would be a, quote, complete and total ceasefire between Iran and Israel, saying it was a, quote, official end to what the president is calling the 12-day war. In response, Iran's foreign minister said as long as Israel stopped its attacks by 4 a.m. local time in Tehran, Iran would stop theirs. But Israel continued to warn residents to seek shelter after that 4 a.m. deadline. News reports indicated there had been at least one missile intercepted over the skies of Jerusalem. Speaking on Fox News just after Trump's ceasefire messages were posted, Vice President J.D. Vance said it was welcome news.
The president, without, knock on wood, having a single American casualty, obliterated the Iranian nuclear program. We are now in a place where we weren't a week ago. A week ago, Iran was very close to having a nuclear weapon. Now, Iran is incapable of building a nuclear weapon with the equipment they have because we destroyed it.
And the vice president said he believes Iran should not and will not re-engage in efforts to develop a nuclear weapon.
And we can destroy whatever nuclear capacity you build up. I think that lesson is what's going to teach them not to rebuild their nuclear capacity.
Earlier in the day, Iran responded to the U.S. attacks by launching missile strikes at a U.S. military base in Doha, Qatar. President Trump said the U.S. was warned by Iran in advance of the attack and that there were no U.S. casualties. Trump dismissed the attack as a, quote, very weak response. 14 missiles were fired, 13 were intercepted, the other posed no threat. Earlier reports of an attack on a U.S. base in Iraq was a false alarm. On Capitol Hill, Democrats like House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries adamant the Trump administration did not have the authority to launch these attacks.
The use of military force, which is offensive in nature, must be approved by the House and the Senate. That's according to the Constitution.
And Jeffries bemoaned the lack of notification of the strikes on Saturday.
I asked for a Gang of Eight briefing. It has yet to occur. And it's not clear to me what the administration is hiding from the Congress and from the American people. If they have a case to make, come up to Capitol Hill.
Republican Senator Katie Britt on Fox News, however, with a different point of view.
President Trump is going to win the Nobel Peace Prize, no doubt. He has brought peace to a region that needed stability. He has shown what America First policy actually is.
John Stolnis, Washington.
Just a few days now into summer 2025, and a heat wave is baking the Midwest and East Coast of the U.S., with major cities including New York, Philadelphia, Baltimore, and Washington, D.C. seeing 100-degree temperatures, and a total of 28 states could shatter records this week. Attempting to find relief from the heat, here's correspondent Clayton Neville.
It's summer and it feels like it.
It's super hot that I have to jump into this cold pool.
In places like Texas, it's the heat index that'll get you.
Heat stress index near 100 in the shade.
Brad Barton is a meteorologist at WBAP Radio in Dallas.
The high-pressure ridge that moved us into the mid-90s last week has stopped just south of the Great Lakes, and the strengthening Bermuda high will block further eastward movement, so that ridge is going to expand back into Texas this week.
The feels-like temperature hit 103 degrees in Chicago and 105 in Pittsburgh, even warmer in Philadelphia. The National Weather Service has called it the first significant heat wave this season and says from the Midwest to the East Coast should expect numerous daily record maximum and minimum temperatures through at least midweek.
What we have in place is what's commonly known as a heat dome, and what that is a strong area of high pressure in the upper levels of the atmosphere, and it kind of serves as a cap to the atmosphere, keeping heat in while suppressing rainfall across the area.
Light winds and a lack of overnight cooling expected to pose a significant risk to those without cooling and hydration. About 200 million Americans under heat alerts as we enter late June. I'm Clayton Neville.
The top stories of the day are sponsored by Sleep Number. Smarter sleep is life-changing. Save over $600 on a Sleep Number King P5 smart bed, the lowest price of the season, only at a Sleep Number store. Green light on immigration deportation from the Supreme Court. When America in the Morning continues after these messages. You're with America in the Morning, and yes, those 90-degree temperatures will be widespread across the nation today. Here's AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
The impressive heat slated for later today will be so wide-reaching that 90 degrees won't even just be limited to the Great Lakes and Northeast. In fact, high temperatures at least in the 90s should be rather plentiful from the Carolinas into Oklahoma and north and east from there through much of the Midwest and just about all of New England, with a bit less warmth in store only for portions of eastern Maine around the Canadian border. Regardless, AccuWeather real-field temperatures are expected to soar into the triple digits from western Maine across much of New England, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania, and point south and west through Chicago, St. Louis, and into the southeast, perhaps approaching 110 degrees at times from the Philadelphia area through much of Georgia, Tennessee, and Kentucky. Real fields may even exceed 110 degrees in a small zone from Richmond, Virginia, into northeastern North Carolina. The hot and humid conditions will provide enough fuel that some of this same zone may also end up with severe weather in the area by this afternoon and into tonight ahead of a cold front, with storms from Maine through northern Massachusetts, western New York, northern Indiana, and southern lower Michigan able to produce hail and damaging wind gusts. To the west of there, storms should be more numerous and potent along that front from northern Illinois and southern Wisconsin to southeastern Montana and eastern Colorado, bringing larger hail, strong winds, even some tornadoes as a wet week continues. Elsewhere, showers and heavy thunderstorms are expected over New Mexico today, with pop-up afternoon storms centered on the lower Mississippi River Valley. South Florida may also end up with some storms, with most of the western U.S. looking quite dry and comfortable today. In Hot Springs, Arkansas, today brings more sun than clouds with a spotty afternoon thunderstorm, the high 94. For Lake Tahoe, California, expect sun and a high of 68. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
Follow us wherever you get your podcasts. You can listen on your preferred platform when you search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. The Supreme Court has granted the Trump administration's request to suspend a lower court injunction blocking them from deporting individuals to third countries without prior notice. Correspondent Haya Panjwani reports it's a big win for President Trump in his ongoing immigration policy.
The Supreme Court is allowing the Trump administration to restart the deportation of migrants away from their home countries. The nation's highest court voted to lift an order requiring migrants to get a chance to challenge their deportations. All three liberal justices dissented. The Supreme Court's action came after a Boston judge found the administration had violated his order by sending 8 people to South Sudan in May. The migrants had been convicted of serious crimes in the U.S., and immigration officials said they were unable to return them quickly to their home countries. Authorities instead landed the plane at a U.S. naval base in Djibouti. Haya Panjwani, Washington.
There hasn't been a nuclear power plant built in New York in a generation. However, correspondent Julie Walker reports the Empire State's governor wants to build a facility that could power 1 million homes.
Governor Kathy Hochul says nuclear power is the future, which is why she wants a new plant in upstate New York 4 years after Indian Point's closure over environmental concerns.
And this is not your grandparents' nuclear reactor. You're not going to see this in a movie.
Referring to disaster movies and previous plant shutdowns, Hochul says this would be safe, reliable, and clean.
And there's only one commercially viable option that can deliver that much clean, renewable, reliable power. And that's what's been operating in New York for decades. Nuclear energy.
The governor directing the state's power authority to develop a nuclear facility and inviting companies to invest. The state currently has 3 active nuclear plants. Julie Walker, New York.
Ceasefire in the Middle East affects the U.S. stock market. That in your business reports when America in the Morning continues after these messages. This is America in the Morning. The business report is brought to you by Fisher Investments. Fisher Investments takes a disciplined approach with investing, helping clients navigate volatile markets. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com. Stocks in the green yesterday. What's in store today? Here's CNBC's Jessica Ettinger.
Wall Street opens this morning after a winning day for stocks yesterday. Iran's retaliation after the U.S. bombed its nuclear facilities was seen as restrained. The Dow popped 370 points. Then, as you've been hearing, last night President Trump announced a tentative Israel-Iran ceasefire on his social media platform. And it would have started early this morning. We'll see if it holds and helps stocks rally again today. We'll see. And after that announcement, oil pulled back even more than it did yesterday, falling back to around $65 a barrel for U.S. crude. That can help prices at the pump for American drivers who are now paying almost 10 cents more for a gallon of regular in just the past week, according to AAA. Investors now really aren't too worried about Iran possibly disrupting tankers carrying oil through the Strait of Hormuz.
How many times has the Strait of Hormuz been closed? 0. Even during the Gulf War, when 451 oil tankers were attacked, mined, or shot at, 451, the Strait of Hormuz was not shut down. The reality is China's going to have something to say about it. The U.S. 5th Naval Fleet, which is in Bahrain, is going to have something to say about it. The Nimitz Carrier Group is going over there. They're going to have something to say about it.
That's CNBC's Brian Sullivan. Chinese media reporting that Starbucks is looking for a buyer for its Chinese business. But Starbucks says, no, that's not true.
A full sale of its China operations, and that's a significant shift in strategy for the company. The report cites some people familiar with the matter saying that the company's held preliminary talks with more than a dozen potential acquirers. And just a reminder on Starbucks China, it's its second home market. They're looking to have about 9,000 locations there. That market has seen many challenges as of late due to a softer consumer environment and, of course, the expansion of lower-cost competitors like Luckin Coffee.
CNBC's Kate Rogers. More existing homes were sold in May than expected, but sales were the slowest since the Great Recession, 2009. The real estate market is just plodding slowly along.
The median price of an existing home sold in May, $422,000, a record high for the month of May. Now homes are taking longer to sell, 27 days versus 24 a year ago. 27% of all transactions were all cash, and that is higher than last year.
CNBC's Diana Olick. On today's watch list, the Fed chair will testify to Congress over 2 days. The House Financial Services Committee today. Earnings are on the way from FedEx and Carnival Cruise Corporation. Billionaire Amazon founder Jeff Bezos and Lauren Sanchez kick off a 3-day wedding celebration in Italy.
CNBC's Jessica Ettinger. When we return on America in the Morning, mayoral primary in the Big Apple. New Yorkers go to the polls. After these messages. More than a dozen Democrat candidates are on the ballot to become the next mayor of New York City, with the primary today and a ranked choice system allowing voters to select up to 5 candidates. Polling shows former Governor Andrew Cuomo as the front-runner, narrowly leading State Assembly member Zohran Mamdani. Cuomo resigned as the state's governor amid allegations of sexual harassment, while the Democrat socialist Mamdani, who received endorsements from Senator Bernie Sanders and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, has characterized Israel's fight with Hamas in Gaza as genocide. Voters in the Big Apple will want to check their party affiliation. Current Mayor Eric Adams, formerly a Democrat, is running as an independent. To the Sunshine State now, where residents are facing increased assessments and ballooning fees. Florida has been facing a condo crisis over the past 2 years. However, as correspondent Lisa Dwyer reports, a new bill signed into law by Governor Ron DeSantis will give condo associations more flexibility and condo owners more time to deal with costly repair bills.
Florida condominium residents grappling with the steep cost of building improvements will get some financial relief under a new bill signed into law by Governor Ron DeSantis.
This is an issue that we've been talking about for over a year now, about the need to provide condo owners with relief from some of the regulatory apparatus that has been instituted over the years.
The new measure gives condo homeowners associations more flexibility in how to build up their reserve funds and eases some requirements for safety assessments. Approval came the day before the 4th anniversary of the partial collapse of the Champlain Tower South, which killed 98 people in Surfside, Florida in 2021. The new law goes into effect July 1st and is aimed at reforming a condo safety law passed in 2022 in the wake of that disaster. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
America in the Morning for Tuesday, June 24th, 2025 is produced by Jeff McKay. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One. This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. I'm John Trout. Coming up this half hour,
Israel and Iran have agreed to a ceasefire. Haya Panjwani, Washington.
Iran launched a limited missile attack on a U.S. military base in Qatar. Ed Donahue, Washington.
The governor of Texas passes a THC ban back to the legislature. I'm Clayton Neville.
Taking the paperwork out of the process and a new approach to health insurance. I'm Bob Brown.
Humanoid robots making AI servers at a factory in Houston. I'm tech correspondent Chuck Palm.
Nuclear sites destroyed in Iran. The Atomic Energy Agency weighs in. A surprising new report on abortions in the nation. And Robert Workman will have sports. America in the Morning back after these messages. America in the Morning continues now. Where can we expect those afternoon thunderstorms to erupt today? Here's AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
A storm continuing to struggle its way through strong high pressure centered over the eastern U.S. will once again be the focus for the strongest thunderstorms today, with today's severe risk zone extending along and ahead of a front from the northern high plains to the Chicago area, where the storm should be more vigorous with large hail and a tornado cannot be ruled out, then eastward into southern lower Michigan, the interior northeast, and northern New England, where storms are more likely to produce just strong winds and smaller hail. This will be day 2 of an extended flood risk event for the north central plains and upper Midwest, and storm total rainfall of at least 1 to 2 inches from yesterday through Thursday can be expected along a wide swath covering areas from northern Kansas and eastern Colorado through northwestern Illinois, central Minnesota, all of the upper peninsula of Michigan, and the northwestern part of lower Michigan. A rather large zone expected to pick up 4 to perhaps 8 inches of rain will emerge from portions of eastern Nebraska across the majority of Iowa, the south side of Minneapolis, and into west central Wisconsin. Rainfall of this magnitude will lead to not only flooding, but the potential for travel disruptions as well due to water-covered, impassable roads as storms continue to be severe at times. To the east of there, the heat will peak for some as a heat wave progresses from the nation center toward the mid-Atlantic, Great Lakes, and Northeast today. Highs in the 90s to around 100 degrees in spots should stretch from Missouri eastward through the Carolinas and northward across the Ohio Valley into all but northern and eastern Maine. In just about all of these areas, high humidity levels will also take AccuWeather real field temperatures well above 100 degrees this afternoon. That's the weather across America. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
Follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Listen on your favorite platform when you search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. President Trump announces that Israel and Iran have agreed to a phased-in ceasefire, which came within hours of an Iranian missile salvo against a U.S. base in Qatar. An attack that happened after Qatar's government was notified in advance by Iran and, for the most part, thwarted by missile defense systems. Correspondent Haya Panjwani reports the proposed ceasefire comes amid questions of the overall severity of the U.S. strikes against 3 Iranian nuclear facilities and President Trump's floating the idea of regime change in the Islamic Republic.
President Donald Trump said on social media that the two countries have agreed to a complete and total ceasefire to be phased in over 24 hours. Trump said on Truth Social that the ceasefire would bring an official end to the war. That's a major change in the hostilities that follow a U.S. strike over the weekend on Iranian nuclear sites. Iran launched a missile attack on a U.S. military base in Qatar, retaliating for the American bombing of 3 key nuclear facilities. The U.S. said no casualties were reported. After a surprise attack on Iran's nuclear sites, President Trump is calling into question the future of Iran's ruling body. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt says U.S. operations in the Middle East haven't changed. That's despite President Trump raising the possibility of what he called a regime change on social media in Iran on Sunday.
The president's posture and our military posture has not changed. The president was just simply raising a question that I think many people around the world are asking. If the Iranian regime refuses to give up their nuclear program or engage in talks, we just took out their nuclear program on Saturday night, as you all know. But if they refuse to engage in diplomacy moving forward, why shouldn't the Iranian people rise up against this brutal terrorist regime?
In response to the attacks, Iran could attempt to close a key bottleneck for global oil supplies, the Strait of Hormuz between it and Oman. Leavitt was asked if there was a plan if the strait was closed.
I can assure you the administration is actively and closely monitoring the situation in the Strait of Hormuz, and the Iranian regime would be foolish to make that decision.
Haya Panjwani, Washington.
The Israel-Iran ceasefire comes after Iran fired 6 to 10 short-range missiles at a U.S. base in Qatar, the same number of missiles equal to the number of bunker-busting bombs dropped by U.S. forces against Iranian nuclear facilities. Ed Donahue reports on the initial reaction to the missiles fired at Qatar and reaction by Democrats, who believe the president should have sought congressional support for the use of military force against Iran.
It was scary. Many people never witnessed this in Qatar. Some friends in the southern part of Qatar, near Ariyan area, saw some parts of the drones falling in their streets and their gardens.
Iran launched a limited missile attack on a U.S. military base in Qatar. President Trump said it was a very weak response, and the U.S. was warned by Iran in advance. On social media, the president said, most importantly, they've gotten it all out of their system, and there will hopefully be no further hate. Comments from Iran indicate it wanted to de-escalate with the U.S.
The whole reason for the Trump administration to undertake that process is to come up to Capitol Hill and convince the American people and their elected representatives in the House and in the Senate. That hasn't happened. The use of military force, which is offensive in nature, must be approved by the House and the Senate. That's according to the Constitution. It's not optional, Donald. It's not.
In the House, Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries wants to know why the president did this without congressional authorization.
Not a scintilla of evidence to date has been presented that I have seen to justify the notion that there was an imminent threat to the United States of America.
The White House says lawmakers will be briefed on the Iran attacks. Ed Donahue, Washington.
In the aftermath of the American military action in Iran, the International Atomic Energy Agency says U.S. strikes on a major Iranian nuclear plant were highly effective. Correspondent Charles de Ledesma reports the European Union, which continues to deal with the situation in Ukraine, have a vested interest in the latest developments in the Middle East and Iran.
The head of the United Nations nuclear watchdog, Rafael Mariano Grossi, says very heavy damage is expected at Iran's underground facility at Fordo after a US airstrike there this weekend with sophisticated bunker-buster bombs.
Given the explosive payload utilized and the extreme vibration-sensitive nature of centrifuges, very significant damage is expected to have occurred.
Grossi adds, given the explosive payload utilised and the extreme vibration-sensitive nature of centrifuges, very significant damage is expected to have occurred. But, he cautions, at this time no one, including the IAEA, is in a position to have fully assessed the underground damage at Fordo.
Craters are now visible at the Fordo site, Iran's main location for enriching uranium at 60%, indicating the use of ground-penetrating munitions. This is consistent with statements from the United States. At this time, no one, including the IAEA, is in a position to have fully assessed the underground damage at Fordo.
EU Foreign Policy Chief Kaja Kallas says ministers are emphasising diplomacy regarding the escalating situation in Iran.
Ministers are very much focused on the diplomatic solution and also the concerns of retaliation and this war escalating are huge. Especially closing of the Strait of Hormuz by Iran is something that it would be extremely dangerous and not good for anybody.
Several close US allies are urging a return to the negotiating table following American strikes on Iran that fuel fears of a wider conflict, while noting the threat posed by Tehran's nuclear program. I'm Charles de Ledesma.
When we return, the great THC debate in Texas and robot computers making computers. Part of what we're covering next when America in the Morning continues after these messages. Welcome back. This is America in the Morning. A veto by the governor of Texas is sparking further debate over THC in the Lone Star State. Correspondent Clayton Neville has been following the story.
The Texas Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick is leading the effort to ban THC in Texas.
In 2019, marijuana was not legal in Texas. We passed the hemp bill, and then new technology came out on Delta 8 and Delta 10.
Limited amounts of THC are sold in about 8,000 smoke shops statewide, employing close to 50,000 people. Texas Governor Greg Abbott vetoed a ban on THC products recently passed by the state legislature, citing concerns the ban wouldn't hold up in court. He called a special session to regulate hemp.
Dan Patrick is coming back for blood, and he is going to try and get rid of us.
Lucas Gilkey's a cannabis advocate and owner of Hometown Hero ATX in Austin.
We need to make sure that we band together as an industry and we fight back hard. This is a critical point for the hemp industry in Texas.
Lieutenant Governor Patrick ripped into the governor when speaking to reporters after the veto. He said the governor initially told him that he was going to sign the ban.
It puzzles me why my friend Greg Abbott, Governor Abbott, would at the last minute decide to veto this bill. I know he gave the reasons in his proclamation, but our team simply doesn't agree with those reasons.
Patrick has said that current law puts kids at risk, and a statement from Governor Abbott's press secretary confirms the governor does not want THC products sold to kids. He said the ban was well intended but legally flawed and that it needs to be improved. I'm Clayton Neville.
A new day appears on the horizon in navigating the tricky and often confusing process of filing health insurance claims for millions of Americans. Correspondent Bob Brown explains.
The health insurance industry has taken the initiative in streamlining the pre-authorization process for millions of Americans who are too often denied critical coverage, mainly because of the endless red tape. Private health insurers are now working with the Trump administration to change all that. Dr. Mehmet Oz, the administrator of the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, says it's about taking the paperwork out of the process.
And 90-day continuity should exist for
for authorizations when patients switch insurers, so you never fall through the cracks. Again, another pain point that many patient groups are bringing to us. The future is a system where carriers compete on value and outcomes.
The plan will be put into effect immediately.
The continuity of care protections to make sure that you don't lose coverage when you switch between plans is going to go live by January 26th. It's a fast timeline, but in 7 months we'll be able to give to the American people something they've been asking for, something that's been in the news recently because of the difficulty of obtaining it, which is the freedom from prior authorization when used incorrectly.
32 million Americans were denied pre-authorization in 2023. I'm Bob Brown.
Even as more U.S. states tighten abortion restrictions, a new report shows the number of abortions has increased. Lisa Dwyer reports.
A new report finds that the number of abortions in the United States increased in 2024 as more women obtained pills through telehealth. The latest We Count project for the Society of Family Planning finds that 1 in 4 abortions uses medications prescribed by a provider who does not see the patient in person. That is up from 1 in 20 in the months before the U.S. Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade in 2022. The number may explain why another recent study found that fewer women crossed state lines to obtain an abortion than in the year before. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
Autonomous humanoid robots with AI programming will soon be making computer servers at a factory in Texas. Chuck Palm has details in today's Tech Report.
Tech giant NVIDIA and manufacturing powerhouse Foxconn are in talks to deploy humanoid robots at a cutting-edge server manufacturing plant in Houston, Texas. According to Reuters, this collaboration aims to revolutionize production by integrating advanced robotics powered by NVIDIA. The robots will be designed to mimic human movement and decision-making and could handle complex tasks like assembling servers, which are critical for powering data centers and cloud computing. And the Houston plant fits in nicely with Foxconn's bigger push to expand its U.S. manufacturing footprint. Sources say the deal is in the early stages and no final details have been released, but the project could set a standard for automation in high-tech manufacturing. With companies like Microsoft and Amazon already laying off large numbers of their employees in favor of AI, this new factory brings into question just how many robots will replace human jobs in the factory. For more tech news, find me at chuckpalm.com.
Robert Workman has arrived with Tuesday Sports on America in the Morning.
Baseball last night, the Braves shaded the Mets 3-2. New York has lost 9 of its last 10. Reds romped over the Yankees 6-1, a first-inning dinger by Aaron Judge, all the pinstripers could muster, while Ellie De La Cruz went deep and drove in 3. Cardinals clubbed the Cubs 8-2, belting 4 two-run taters. Diamondbacks walloped the White Sox 10-0. Eduardo Rodriguez and Anthony DeSclafani combined on a 5-hitter with 14 Ks. Pavin Smith homered twice. Orioles shut out the Rangers 6-0, 8 scoreless innings for Trevor Rogers, the best start of his career.
I put up zeros and they're able to put runs up. Kind of takes pressure off of both of us, and that's how you win ball games. It was huge.
Jackson Holliday homered and drove in 4. Mariners trampled the Twins, home run number 32 for Cal Raleigh. He's the major league leader. Nick Gonzalez went 5 for 5 to lead the Pirates past the Brewers. Nationals knocked off the Padres, and the Angels ripped the Red Sox. NBA draft coming up tomorrow. The Dallas Mavericks own the top pick. On the trade front, the Celtics will deal Drew Holiday to the Blazers for Anthony Simons and a couple of future second-rounders. All trades become official next month. The Pacers confirmed that Tyrese Halliburton tore his right Achilles in their Game 7 loss to the Thunder. He'll miss most, if not all, of next season. That's Tuesday Sports.
When we return on America in the Morning, attempted mass killing thwarted in Michigan. After these messages. More is being learned about the man who attempted to open fire at a church service in Michigan over the weekend. Correspondent Julie Walker reports the man who was stopped by church parishioners was the troubled son of a woman who attended services in the town of Wayne.
Police Chief Ryan Strong says 31-year-old Brian Anthony Browning had no criminal history when he opened fire outside his mother's church in Wayne, Michigan, Sunday.
The suspect arrived at the church and began to drive recklessly,
drawing the attention of church staff members. The suspect exited his vehicle wearing a tactical vest, armed with a long gun and a handgun.
Crosspoint Community Church was full of parishioners, including many children. The service was being live streamed, but Browning never made it inside. Strong says he was driving recklessly in the parking lot when he was spotted.
He approached the church building and began firing his weapon.
He shot a person in the leg who's recovering.
Several staff members from the church approached the gunman. A parishioner struck the gunman with his vehicle as the gunman shot the vehicle repeatedly. At least 2 staff members shot the gunman.
That's when church staff shot and killed Browning. Audio courtesy WXYZ.
She was not an official member, and she did not attend regularly. She would attend in spurts, a few Sundays here, and we may not see her for several months, and we see her again. But yes, she was a frequent attender, but we didn't see her all.
I'm Julie Walker.
To Hollywood, where Pixar is facing a not-so-rare flop at the box office. Kevin Carr reports if you're heading to theaters, be ready for even more ads on movie screens near you.
This weekend, Pixar suffered a flop in a disturbing trend for the animation house. Elio cratered into third place at the box office with an anemic $21 million.
I thought Earth was the problem, but what if it's me?
This is the lowest opening in Pixar's 30-year history, even worse than Lightyear's opening in 2022. Box office analysts have suggested it could be a budget issue or even a marketing problem after a delay in its release and a lackluster teaser trailer.
I think there's been a mistake.
You're not the leader of Earth?
Sorry for the mix-up.
Commence memory wipe. The trend is unique to Pixar's original stories, as its sequels, like last year's Inside Out 2, clean up. Still, the culprit might be what helped sink Pixar's Onward in 2020, timing. Onward was released days before the COVID shutdown. This year, Elio had to compete against family film juggernauts Lilo and Stitch and How to Train Your Dragon. Things are simply getting competitive for theaters, and they're trying to capitalize on this as well.
AMC Theaters. We make movies better.
Now AMC Theaters is making movies better by adding advertising to its trailer blocks, which already run 25 minutes or more. Starting July 1st, expect commercials interspersed with the trailers. Will it work? That's yet to be seen. Reserved seating makes it easy to show up mere minutes before showtime, no matter what Nicole Kidman has to say.
Somehow, heartbreak feels good in a place like this.
I'm Kevin Carr.
Repeating our top story, ceasefire declared between Israel and Iran. Stay tuned to this station for continuing developments. America in the Morning for Tuesday, June 24th, 2025 is produced by Jeff McKay. I'm John Trouts. This is Westwood One.